I'm very excited to have on the show Von Lozon of Maize and Brew. What is up, Von? How you doing, man?
Dude, TJ, doing so good. How are you doing?
Shoot, I'm just enjoying the day, enjoying spring. Spring ball's here. We got the game here in what, 3 weeks. So just enjoying the time of year, Von. Although I will say after the spring game, it'll get a little depressing because we got like 3 months until we get into fall ball, which will be tough. It'll be a tough 3 months.
It's usually how it goes for me too. Like once the spring game's over, it's the spring game, it's the NFL draft, and then you get a little bit of like the NFL side of things. But college, I really start to get the itch in early July, like right after the 4th of July, pretty much. And I'm like, oh man, like football needs to just get here already. So let's savor the moment while we can of spring ball, and we'll get to all that once we get there. But yeah, just enjoying the spring too, man. It's starting to heat up here in Michigan, so I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to spring ball.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, that's the thing too, is like in July is when like you're counting down the days. It's like,
Yeah.
and it's like a slow, it's like a slow count too. But anyways, all right, Von. So let me just let the audience know. You guys know this is the call-in show. For every $100, we will go a second hour. Really appreciate everyone's financial contribution in doing that. We appreciate that. Call-in show. We have a call-in link, guys. We already have a few callers already lined up. We will get to them. Shout out to you guys. We appreciate you. If you guys want to call in, the link is in the chat. It is also in the description. So call in. You guys know we do the 5-minute phone calls, and we appreciate everyone doing that. But all right, Von, one of the things I really enjoy doing is when we get new faces on here, we get new perspectives, new ideas. So I'm going to hit you with some questions, and I just kind of want to know where are you at right now in your thinking process, and what's your opinion on some of these topics I'll hit you with. And the first one I'm going to hit you with, which is very critical, and it's probably the question of the summer. Who is going to be starting, Von? Game 1, snap 1 for Michigan.
Oh man. I mean, that really is the critical question. I personally think it's going to be Bryce. I can't imagine a world where it will be really anybody else at the moment. Now, obviously things can change, but as of right now, Mikey Keene is not practicing for Michigan by the sounds of it. It sounds like he's got something going on. I don't know entirely what exactly it is, whether it's an injury or something else, but it sounds like Bryce and Jaden Davis are the only two quarterbacks really repping right now for Michigan now, obviously it's just spring practice and it's just the first couple weeks going on here, ramping up to the spring game and all of that. And we'll have a fall camp, and even before that, we'll have summer practices and everything. But as of right now, I would slot in Bryce Underwood to be the starting quarterback, week 1, snap 1. I can't see a world where it's anybody else at the moment. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts, because there are a couple other reasons why, but I feel that way, but I want to hear what you have to say first.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, this is a great question. And right now, as it stands, there isn't a wrong answer because it's so tough to call. So Nick here, one of our loyal members and viewers of the show. So he's saying, TJ, I'm going to be right. Bryce is going to he's going to start snap 1. It's an easy call. So my position on this, Von, is I feel Mikey Keene is going to start game 1, snap 1. And the reason why I lead with the Mikey Keene snap 1, game 1, and it doesn't mean Bryce Underwood will not see reps game 1, because he will. He'll get his opportunity to play. But I believe they're going to give the nod to the senior, right? And not only that, the familiarity with Chip Lindsey already, and the offensive line to me is a question. Do you want to put this freshman phenom quarterback in live action territory? Do we want to potentially, because we don't know how this offensive line is going to play when it is live, do we want to put him in a position where, we want to avoid him getting shell-shocked, especially early in his career, right? You don't want to affect the kid's confidence. So I just feel with the new offensive coordinator, with the offensive line that needs to gel, especially with the, the word is Giovanni El-Hadi's moving the left guard. We've seen some video evidence of that. Plus, we got on our end, we got some word of that a few weeks ago that was transpiring. And then Evan Link is obviously a left tackle. Well, right guard, is Nathan Afobe ready? Because that appears to be who's playing right guard right now, unless you're hearing otherwise. But So for me, it's making sure that when Bryce hits the field, he's ready for the speed of the game, and he is not going to be overwhelmed early because like some of the critical positions in sports, pitcher, goalie, quarterback, the mental the mental aspect of the game is so critical. We don't want to affect that too early. And in my opinion too, Vaughn, what is the negative downside of Mikey Keene starting the game and then allowing Bryce Underwood to come into the game at some point, maybe it's the second or third drive, and letting him get acclimated, letting him feel it out, get his feet wet, because it's not going to change anything. Like if Bryce balls out, he's going to play. But why force it without knowing what you have around him is my question.
Yeah. The offensive line point is valid because, we saw it last year. The offensive line did not live up to expectations like what a Michigan offensive line should be, especially coming off a couple Joe Moore awards. And then the 2023 offensive line, obviously they won the national championship. Probably should have won another Joe Moore, but they gave it to Washington instead, which I totally understand. But that was a great offensive line in its own right. 2024 was a major step back. Greg Crippen, it took him way too long to solidify the center position at starting position for center. Just the tackle spots were iffy, especially right tackle with Evan Link for most of the season. It was a lot of in and out. And I don't like that, especially along the offensive line, any position. I don't like that, but especially along the offensive line. So I totally understand all of that. I guess my rebuttal to all of what you said, and I wouldn't have a problem if Mikey Keene started week one by any means. I would be completely fine with it. I trust Sharon. I trust Chip Lindsey, especially the point that you said about Chip Lindsey having familiarity with Mikey Keene. I think that does go a long way. He has over 2,000 snaps in college football, which is absolutely crazy. Point to another few guys that have over 2,000 snaps in college football. I don't think there are very many of those. But I usually like to ride the potential as much as possible. And this might get a little bit of flack from people, but going into that 2020 season, I was fully on board the Joe Milton train just because of the potential that he had, the athletic ability, the strong arm, etc. Bryce is a little different. Obviously, Joe Milton was already in college for 2 years up to that point. That was his third season, I believe. A little bit different with Bryce. He's a freshman guy. I totally get not wanting to shatter his confidence, but you hear these interviews on Rich Eisen and etc. I don't think he's a guy that lacks confidence. Exactly. He's going to win 2 Heismans and at least 1 national championship. So it's like, I don't think he's a guy that lacks confidence at all. I think if he starts week one and he throws a touchdown and an interception, and that's like it, I don't think he's going to be too deterred going into week 2 at Oklahoma. If anything, I think that would maybe fuel him a little bit more. So I always kind of like to ride the young potential instead of the veteran that you kind of already know what you're going to get. It's a limited ceiling. You can probably win 7, 8, 9 games with Mikey Keene, but with Bryce, you could win 10, 11, 12 games, make the college football playoff, maybe win the Big Ten. So I like the higher ceiling of Bryce over Mikey Keene, and that's why I would roll with him week 1.
Okay, so let's hit on that because week 1, do you think so? Let's just focus. Let's look at the micro. Do we think if Mikey Keene starts week 1, we're gonna lose week 1?
Oh no, not at all.
It's against New Mexico, right? Isn't that week 1? That's our matchup.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so the way I look at it is we got nothing to lose week 1. Like that game, we're gonna be okay. We're gonna be okay. And I'm thinking something along the lines of like a 70-30, maybe 60-40 distribution. And I do actually anticipate, Vaughn, that Bryce Underwood is the full-time starter week 3 after the Oklahoma game, which is on the road. Because are you ready to put a true freshman on the road in Norman, Oklahoma? It's a big game.
We'll see. Yeah, it is. You're right.
I feel it's a week 3. So I'm just projecting that I'm thinking week 3 because I feel like Sharon, if we've looked at how Sharon's actually operated, he's been precautious, right? He's not, I mean, he's aggressive in the sense of, he's willing to like for example, going forward on fourth down against like Ohio State and stuff like that. Like he's willing to do things to win games, but I just feel like it guys, him starting the first week of the season, it doesn't change Bryce Underwood's trajectory or career. Like he's going to be just fine, and he will play game one. It's not that he won't play; he will play. And guess what? If he does like completely ball out, like his first drive, he takes it, he drives the team 80 yards, and they score. He's probably coming back on the field, So I guess my position is like, why not be precautious and just make sure everything's where it needs to be? Because to JS's point here, Sharon Moore won't start Bryce until he knows who his best old linemen are in the game. And that's the thing too, Vaughn, is we've kind of seen the last, I'd say 2 years, he's kind of rotated some guys to find the best 5 in the beginning of the year. We saw it with Trente Jones where he moved. I think Trente kind of started at right tackle, then he moved him into a 6-man role. So listen, this is what makes this debate so great though, because I can see both arguments, but what's the answer is the question. Like, we just don't know.
Yeah, no, I see both sides to it too. And like I said, I wouldn't be upset if Mikey Keene were the one trotting out there to take the first snap of the first game. It would not shock me. It would not anger me. I would be completely fine. It's one of those things that, when Sharon makes the decision, Michigan fans should be fully on board. And even if it's not Bryce right away, people should not panic and think, oh my gosh, like Bryce Underwood could not beat out Mikey Keene in camp. Bryce Underwood's getting paid all this money to be quarterback 2 at Michigan. Like, fans should not think that whatsoever. Bryce is going to get his time. He's not going to redshirt like what other quarterbacks of the past at Michigan have done. He's going to probably play in every single game, or at least a majority of the games, just depending on situation. I would imagine he probably plays in every game this season. So yeah, Michigan fans should not be deterred or upset or confused or anything if Mikey Keene is QB1 to start the season, because odds are he probably won't be QB1 to end the season.
Correct. No, I can guarantee that will not happen. Bryce Underwood will end the season QB1. But I just think you have that experienced veteran, you put him in there. But what's interesting is, I guess, all right, so let's hit on, how about this? Let's hit on these super chats here. So let me give a shout out here to Detroit Wolverine, who has become a member of the channel. We appreciate that. Thank you, Detroit Wolverine. Enjoy your emojis. Enjoy the cheeseburgers. Let the Buckeyes know. We do have Wolverine Casual with a $2 super chat. I kind of wanted to hit on this. So again, we don't know. So we'll caution the speculation because I don't know the injury. But he says, I think there's a rumor that Keene is badly injured. If that is the case, obviously awful, because you want the veteran presence in the room. But I will say, let's just say hypothetically, there's truth to that. Well, Bryce Underwood's going to get a lot of reps, and that's going to, the opportunity of him to play more and get more experience in spring practice, getting the reps on task, that's only going to make him better starting, next season. So we'll monitor. I'll see if we can figure out what's going on there. But typically injuries are held pretty tight in Schembecker Hall.
Very much so. It's usually he's dealing with something, he's going through something along those lines. So yeah. I have not heard the rumor that he's badly injured.
Yeah, I've not heard that yet either.
I have not been on the socials enough today to see any rumors or anything like that. But if that is the case, that's a bummer. Was really looking forward to hearing more about him this spring. So if he is badly injured, I assume we probably won't know much about his status until July or August. So hopefully he's able to take some reps in this spring. I was really looking forward to seeing it, but I won't speculate too much because I quite honestly don't know anything about the severity, whatever it is he's going through. So it's but if that is the case, I mean, Bryce is going to have an upper hand heading into fall camp. So curious to see how all that goes, but hopefully he's all right.
Yeah, we'll definitely monitor it. If we have anything to update, we will. All right, my next question for you is, who do you think is going to be RB1 next season?
So here's the thing, and I don't mean for this to be like a lame answer or anything, but RB1 I think it doesn't really matter who RB1 is, because they're going to change out so much. Like, it's very much going to be a 1A, 1B scenario with Justice Haynes and Jordan Marshall. Those guys, I mean, if it's not 50-50, it's probably going to be really close. With the way that Chip Lindsey operates offensively, I see both of those guys getting a lot of receptions and a lot of targets in the passing game this season. So, and I think both of those running backs are capable of doing that. I don't know about the other running backs on the roster at this point, if they're really able to do that. I haven't seen that ability from Ben Hall. Micah Capana probably could, but we just didn't see any of him last season, which I would have really liked to see more of him, because I think he's lightning in a bottle. But that's beside the point. So I do really think, with the way that Lindsey operates offensively, I think it is going to be 1A, 1B. They're going to get probably 10 to 12 touches per game, whether it's rushing or receiving. They're going to open up the pass game a little bit with whoever the quarterback is. I mean, I don't mean to give a lame answer, but I really, really think 1A, 1B. I mean, as far as who's going to be the guy that starts the drives, I'll just say Jordan Marshall, just because he was around last year, and I know more about Jordan Marshall up to this point than Justice Haynes.
Fair enough. I mean, there's a lot of people who hold that position. Actually, when we bring in our first caller, Wes Quad, he's actually a former Michigan player. He believes it's gonna be a 50-50 split, but I'm of the belief, Von, that there's no such thing as a true 50-50 split. I know it's something that coaches like to say, but it typically just does not occur. My opinion on this, so it's actually nice. We got some diversity of opinion here. I think Justice Haynes is gonna see the bulk of the share of the bulk of the attempts. I do think I do believe Jordan Marshall he'll get a lot of opportunity. Like, it's not that he won't play, he will. But I'm thinking something, I think, would you say 60-40? I thought you said potentially.
I'm thinking closer to 50-50, but if it is something along the lines of 60-40, I wouldn't be shocked by that either. I don't think it'll be any more than that.
Yeah, so I am of the opinion it's going to be 60-40, possibly 65-35. Here's why I believe that. And listen, I'm a fan of Jordan Marshall, I am. But I really believe Justice Haynes is special. And I believe Justice Haynes is going to have a heck of a year. And much like, remember when they tried talking about Donovan Edwards and the Blake Corum, backfield 50-50, but then they really allowed Blake Corum to, although they were on a mission to get Blake Corum the touchdown record. We all saw that. Donovan Edwards was frustrated with that.
They sure were.
But I don't think that'll be that aggressive, but I think Justice Haynes is I think he's just being older, because like Jordan Marshall was a true freshman last year. What he did in that Alabama game was incredibly special for a true freshman. I just feel they're going to actually allow Justice Haynes to get majority of those carries. And I do think Jordan Marshall will complement him, but we'll see there. I mean, we'll see. I could be wrong on that. I'm just of the opinion that Justice Haynes is going to like when Chip Lindsey was at North Carolina, Amarion Hampton was the running back, and he really leaned on him, and he was the primary carrier, and he was just a hell of a player. I actually envision a similar, now not 1,600 yards, and I think it was like 17 touchdowns or whatever it was for Amarion Hampton. Yeah. But I do anticipate 1,000+ yard season for Justice Haynes and a really healthy chunk of touchdowns. And I do think Jordan Marshall will get his opportunity, but I think being a true I don't know if he burnt his redshirt year. He might have. If he's not a redshirt freshman, he is a sophomore. I just think his time will come, just like it was for Donovan Edwards, where he kind of, even as a freshman, didn't really play a lot his freshman year, as much as you would anticipate maybe for like a 5-star. But we'll see. We'll see. I could be wrong there on that one.
Yeah, Marshall did not burn his red shirt last year. I think he only played in three games, and the bowl game doesn't count towards a red shirt anyway.
Correct. Okay. So he's a redshirt freshman, like he's got time. And a lot of running backs don't leave to the NFL in just 3 years anyways. So we'll see. I could be wrong there. That's something we'll monitor. And if I am wrong, we'll take it.
You could be right too. You could be right. And that's the thing about, talking about all this before the calendar even flips to April. It's so many different things could happen between now and when they suit up August 30th, I think is when their first game is. So, you totally could be spot on, because I do believe that Haynes has a little bit more of the home run hitting ability. than Jordan Marshall does, which not that Marshall doesn't, but just the way that Haynes runs, he just has that extra gear once he gets into the secondary that I really like that as ability in his game. So yeah, I definitely could see Haynes getting a little bit more of the bulk of carries. But I think at the end of the day, as far as touches are concerned, with rush attempts and targets, receptions, whatever you want to say, I think it's going to be pretty dang close. So I mean, if it's above 60, I mean 65-35, I don't really see it being that high personally. But that's, again, we're talking on at the end of March here. So
well, hey, you know what, Von? We will circle back. We will circle back and remember that conversation. Yeah. We'll circle back in the season. But all right, here's my next question. This is a big one, Von. I'm real curious on your thoughts on this. What's your thoughts on the program overall and the trajectory of it? Like, big picture here. What's your thoughts on what Sherrone Moore has built, the way things seem to be trending, and the outlook for the future? Like, what are we thinking here?
I mean, as of today, March 27th, 2025, I really do believe Michigan is in a very healthy spot.
Yeah.
They've got their quarterback of the future locked in. They've got a nucleus, or currently at least, at running back with the guys that we just discussed. They're recruiting very well. They're finally using NIL to their advantage on the recruiting trail and in the transfer portal as well, getting a few guys that I think Trey Williams from Clemson is going to be a really important player for Michigan this season. Kind of has flown under the radar a little bit. But a lot of the transfer portal guys that they got, I do like them. And it would not have been, they wouldn't have been able to get these guys without the revamped NIL system that they have with Sean McGee, with really just with everybody buying into it at this point, even Ward Manuel, the athletic director.
Regions, that's something we've talked about on this show, Von, is it's been a top-down approach. Like, so we kind of got word in March that the tone was changing on the higher ups, and that they were willing, so you can see this shift when you started seeing them landing the Nate Marshalls, and you started seeing them land the Jalen Williams, then went to Wisconsin, and some of these bigger type players, and then it really went to the next level in September when the meeting of the Portnoys and the Ellisons occurred. And we all saw what transpired the last 2 months, where Michigan turned out a top 6 class in the nation. So there's word that with Dusty May's most recent contract, there was some NIL promises on that. So we'll see if that comes to fruition. But yes, Michigan, and I so this is something I say on our show. I tell people this all the time. As a fan of the program, if I look at like what am I desire, what do I wish my program would do to make it more elite? And there's really only one. There's two things, but one is completely out of our control, and that's academics, the admissions, the limitations in terms of transfers and all of that. We're not changing it. It's an academic school, and the regents are never going to allow it. So it's just what it is there. But the other thing is just this, Von. I'm curious if you can think of anything, but for me, I really want Michigan to land an elite wide receiver at recruiting. But other than that, they're checking every box. Like they just revamped the stadium with the scoreboards. They got the sound system going, although I know there's some complaints with that obviously people want Wi-Fi, but I mean, I don't really care at the end of the day, personally. But at the end of the day, like the program itself they're doing everything. And Ward's doing a great job lately too.
Yeah, no, for as much crap as he's taken, you got to give Ward some flowers for sure for signing Dusty May initially, extending Dusty May mid-season while Indiana was probably going to take a run at him, and getting the NIL aspect of it into his contract, and getting his assistants more money as well and things like that. But yeah, I mean, and it just trickles down to the football program as well. Sherrone has really hit the ground running. I mean, he talked about it in his opening press conference when he was named the head coach of Michigan. I mean, they've really just taken this thing and ran with it. When Bryce announced his commitment to Michigan, Like you had said, I mean, that's really when stuff started happening on the recruiting trail. They were able to get Ty Haywood to decommit from Alabama and then sign with Michigan later on in the February signing period, which was great. And you see all of the prospects in the 26 class that are now interested in playing for Michigan. And I've been reading all these recruiting articles on On3, 24/7 Sports. All these guys are like that are visiting this
top
spring.
100 guys.
Bryce Underwood. They're all talking about Bryce Underwood.
I know. That's true. That's true.
Yeah. I mean, it was, Bryce looked great throwing the ball. I was really excited to see Bryce. My favorite part of spring practice was seeing Bryce. So like it is having such a positive impact on current day recruiting and the recruiting classes down the line. So I think you will get your wish, TJ, in getting an elite wide receiver at some point.
I think this year. Yeah, this year.
It's got to happen. I mean, that's the one position that they've really been struggling with. I mean, I don't want to be too negative about it because Roman Wilson had a really good senior year. So I'm not gonna complain too much about it. But they haven't got a bona fide stud receiver. Yeah, they haven't had an alpha receiver since. They haven't had an alpha since
Nico. Yeah, but what sucks about that is he never even like the COVID year took away that his year. He was really like, in my opinion, he was going to dominate. It is what it is. All right. Final question, Ron.
Yeah.
Final question before we get to our phone calls. This is the big one. What is your prediction for 2025, and what is the outcome in terms of record prediction? And then what do you think the outcome is end of the year?
I've been saying, man, I mean, I've been saying this. Me and my dad talk about Michigan football a lot. And I'm so thankful and so blessed to be able to still do that because I know some people that aren't. So I don't take that for granted whatsoever. So I talk to my dad a lot. We go back and forth with it like all the time, and I think I've established my threshold for success for the season. And this might seem low, but 9-3 is kind of what I'm aiming for.
It's not.
And I know it's probably going to seem low to people, but if you go 9-3, you compete for the Big Ten, you compete for an at-large spot in the college football playoff year one with a 5-star quarterback. That's a very, very young freshman. I don't even think he's 18 or will be 18 for a little while. I'd take it. And I would take it. And I know that some fans are going to be really upset with that and that they want immediate success because of all the hype that Bryce is giving and has been giving since he committed. Number one overall player in the country, number one quarterback compared to Cam Newton and compared to Vince Young and compared to all these other guys. But at the end of the day, I will take 9-3. Of course, it depends where those 3 losses come from. As far as my overall happiness scale, where that would be. But I think if you're competing for the Big Ten and you at least are able to show improvement offensively, it can't be that hard given how difficult it was to throw a forward pass last season. I imagine that there would be some improvements. So, I think 9 wins is where I'm at right now. And I think they'll probably drop they'll probably drop a game that they shouldn't because they're prone to do that every now and then. So whether it's at USC, at Nebraska, I'm penciling in at Oklahoma as a loss just because that's a really tough place to play in general. But week 2 in the season, that's really hard. I mean, at the end of the day, I think 9 wins. Where are you at?
So you think we're going to miss the playoffs with 9 wins, or do you think we can squeak it in with 9 wins? Obviously, it depends on what games you lose, right? But
it's going to be really close. I mean, we saw how close Bama was last year with 9 wins, so I think it's going to be like right up to the end.
Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up our schedule, so for me, Vaughn, I'm of the opinion that I believe we can hit. Hold on. I got it right here. So I'll share it right here. I believe 10-2 is actually feasible, and that's not like pie in the sky. I just, when I look at this schedule, and I know you mentioned the Oklahoma game, their defense is very poor. They do have John Mateer quarterback, so we know they've upgraded that, and it won't be an easy game. And you're right, it is a hostile environment, which is again kind of what leads to my Mikey Keene narrative that I'm pushing. But Central Michigan obviously will handle it. At Nebraska, I'm just not afraid of Nebraska. Dylan Raiola, he, as a true freshman, he just didn't have the greatest statistical year, but I mean, he was a true freshman. You can only ask for so much. Wisconsin's garbage. USC's a mess. Like, they're a mess. Lincoln Riley's seat's warm. They're just not, they're acting like it's not. Washington is shaky, although I know they got us this year, but if we had a better quarterback, I feel that result would have changed. Little brother's little brother, not afraid. Purdue, not afraid. They're bottom feeders at the moment. Northwestern's at the bottom of the food chain. Maryland, for some reason, always seems to give us a little bit of a tough one. I mean, to me, I'm looking at a 10-2 year. And by the way, I do believe we're winning this game. I do.
Well,
it's at home.
Michigan has won the last 4. There's no reason that you should think that they're going to lose. Just saying. So, I would pull that in as a dub right now, too.
Yeah, I just look at the schedule and it's not a tough schedule. So in my opinion, I think we're looking at 10-2. I'll say this, Vaughn. If it's 9-3 and Bryce Underwood looks so promising, I don't think anyone's going to care. The future will be just so bright. And I know we got some people in the chat, and I'll pull them up. They're like, 9-3 is just not good enough. 9-3 is a failure. 9-3 is underachieving. Shout out to AD and Moose, by the way. Shout out to you guys. We got Rashad here with the 10-2. But the point is, if Bryce is balling out and you're seeing some of these young guys, and you're seeing this offense really reach its potential, which there's some early indications that this offense has some high tempo to it. This offense has some air yards to it, which would be a blessing considering our longest pass last year was 36 yards. So I mean, there's listen, this fan base would be quite happy with 9-3 if things look how we anticipate they could. But so I'm of the 10-2, and I do think we make the playoffs, Vaughn.
Yeah, no, I'm cool with it. I don't hate that prediction whatsoever. But going back to our original topic that we were talking about with whether we think Mikey or Bryce is the guy. My 9-3 could instantly change if Bryce is the guy right away. And it's like an actual heated quarterback battle between him, Mikey, Jane Davis. If Bryce Underwood wins that, my expectations are going to instantly change. So I would go from 9-3 to probably your 10-2, maybe even a little higher. But as of right now, I'm sticking with the baseline of 9-3, with subject to change if Bryce actually beats out the other quarterbacks in fall camp. So, I know the schedule sets itself up so nicely because you don't get Penn State. Some of these other schools, like what you were just talking about, I mean, there's no reason to be scared of Purdue. Maryland late in the season is historically horrible. Very early in the year, Maryland is pretty good, and they do give you a fight. Late in the season, they just falter. They give up. So I'm not even worried about Maryland before Ohio State. I'm not worried about Michigan State. I'm not really worried that much about Washington or Wisconsin. It's those away games at Nebraska and USC that I'm just a little iffy about. As right now, that could go either way, just depending on some things. But I mean. Yeah, my opinion could totally change if Bryce wins out week 1. So
fair enough, Vaughn. All right, good deal, man. Good deal. All right, we're going to get to our callers. And actually, let me read these super chats so I can give a shout out to everybody who's been contributing. We appreciate that. So the first one we have here is AD asking if Savion Fighter is taking an unofficial visit to OSU. Yeah, I believe it's this weekend he's taking an unofficial visit to OSU.
He is
what it is. Hopefully, I will. So I guess the question is, why is he not taking one to us? There's some speculation that with the Javion Osborne, things seem to be trending Michigan's way. Although I know, I think what Notre Dame's trying to make a move there with Osborne, but
I think it's one of those things with Hyder. Sorry to cut you off. I think it's one of those things with Hyder where it's he wants to hit some of these schools that are on his top list that he hasn't really gotten a chance to see yet. A whole heck of a lot, especially this year. So I expected him to hit Ohio State. I would expect him to return to Michigan at some point. I don't know if it's going to happen this spring, but he does have his official planned out. So he, at the very least, will get back on his official. But I wouldn't be worried about this visit to Ohio State.
Yeah, his official visit is planned. I actually have it here. His official visit is June 13th through the 15th. So we'll see where it goes. I mean, I will say it would be nice to get him up for an unofficial though, especially personally, I prefer Savion Hyder over or maybe is it hitter? Let me double check. Is it hitter or is it Hyder? I can't remember.
I've been saying Hyder. So I think you're right on that. Yeah.
It's Hyder. Okay. You just never know. I don't know about you, Vaughn, but occasionally I get cooked by the viewers for not saying last names correctly.
It's tough. Yeah. I try to, pronounce people's names correctly, because we do a podcast in the fall where we do picks, Vegas picks, and getting Nico Iamaliava the first time was not fun. So it was brutal.
Yes, we got Wolverine Casual for the $5 super chat. Is anyone else medium concerned about O-line? Bryce could be God's gift to football, but if he gets less than 2 seconds back there, it could kill his confidence. Yeah, I mean, I do have the shell shock David Carr effect concern for me a little bit. We'll see. Maybe the offensive line is going to be just fine, though. Wolverine Casual, $5 super chat. Apparently, Sincere Brown has sped up a lot since high school. Yeah, let's talk about I've heard. All right, so he ran a verified 4.41, very productive. Suddenly, I want him very badly. Yeah, so what do you know about Sincere Brown, Vaughn? You got any info on it? I'm sure you're aware that Michigan's reached out to him, and that's kind of where we are with it right now.
Yeah, I saw the story by EJ Holland on the Wolverine. Yeah, 6'5", 4.4s. It could be 4.49, and if you're 6'5", that's fast. That's some good speed. Yeah. So Michigan is clearly looking to upgrade in the height area of the wide receiver position. Whether they add through the transfer portal this spring or not, it's been pretty apparent that they are looking to do that. So they added Jamar Browder through the freshman ranks, Jacob Washington as well. Those two guys are, I think, Washington's 6'3" and Browder 6'5". You got Donovan McCulley, who is 6'5". I know people aren't super high on Amorion Walker right now, but he's a tall receiver. You still have Peyton O'Leary. So all of a sudden, you got a lot of big-bodied guys in your receiver room. And to see them going for one more, they really want to revamp that wide receiver room. So Sincere Brown, super big, super fast, was pretty productive at his last stop. So if they end up getting him, I think that'd be a really good addition because he's getting a lot of offers from other big-time schools like Texas A&M. I saw he had an offer from some others in there as well. So that'd be a big-time addition, man.
Yeah, I'm all for it. I want it. A lot of people were concerned with his 11.300 meter because it's not elite. It's just solid. Well, I mean, it's good. It's just not elite. But yeah, I'm all in. I would love to land another big body wide receiver. I think, by the way, my thought here, Vaughn, is I think Donovan McCulley is going to lead the team in yards and touchdowns next season. That's kind of my call on that.
I like
hoping the Fred Moore news is real because he's getting a lot of hype early in camp right now. All right, we got the truth here. COVID year forced Jim to fire Don Brown, so it wasn't all negative. Yeah,
that's true. There's the silver lining, man.
And it gave us 3 really good defensive coordinators along the way, so not too shabby. All right, and a hell of a run against Ohio State. We'll take it. All right, let's get to our first